Sir, why is my mom sleeping on the floor? The boy asked the millionaire in the hospital waiting room. The hospital at night was its own kind of world. Outside, the city glowed with neon signs and traffic lights, music cars hissing past on wet streets. Inside, the corridors hummed with low voices, rolling carts, and the steady beep of machines that never slept. On the third floor, near the elevator, the waiting area sat half empty. Plastic chairs in a neat row, a TV on the wall playing an old sitcom with the sound turned down, a vending machine buzzing faintly in the corner. On the cold tile floor beside the last chair, a woman was sleeping. Her name was Mara Rivera. She wore faded green scrub pants and white sneakers with cracked soles. Someone's forgotten gray hoodie was pulled over her scrub top, the sleeves pushed up to her elbows. Her dark hair, streaked with early gray, had come loose from a bun and fanned over the thin hospital blanket someone had thrown across her. She slept the way people only sleep when they have nothing left. Heavy, still, one arm curled protectively around a small backpack. Next to her, leaning against the wall, sat a boy. He couldn't have been more than 7. Skinny, with dark brown hair that stuck up in uneven tufts and big, watchful eyes. His hoodie was too big. His jeans were frayed at the knees. On his lap, he held a small red toy car with one wheel missing, rolling it back and forth across the tile line. He wasn't really playing. He was staying awake. Every few seconds, his eyes flicked to his mother's chest, watching it rise and fall under the blanket. Whenever he saw her breathe, his shoulders loosened just a little. His name was Leo. Across the waiting room, near the coffee machine, a man in a charcoal wool coat stood alone. He looked like he belonged somewhere else, at a gala, in a boardroom, walking out of the back seat of a black car, not under flickering fluorescent lights. He was tall, broad-shouldered, maybe late 30s. Dark hair perfectly cut, white shirt, expensive watch, leather shoes that didn't squeak on the hospital floor. In his hand, a paper coffee cup he hadn't touched. His name was Adrian Cole. Most people here didn't know exactly who he was. They just knew his last name. It was engraved on the silver plaque downstairs. The Cole Foundation, main donor. The staff called him quietly, half joking, half serious, the hospital millionaire. Tonight, he had come for a late board meeting. Tour, numbers, a few stage photos with senior doctors. It was supposed to be quick. Instead, he'd asked to walk the night shift alone. Just 10 minutes, he'd told the administrator. But 10 minutes had stretched into an hour, because now he was standing in front of a coffee machine he didn't really need, staring at the reflection of the waiting room in the metal panel, at the woman asleep on the floor, at the boy sitting guard beside her, and at the question that was already forming in his mind. Why? Music? Leo felt someone looking at him. He lifted his head. Their eyes met. The boy didn't look away. He studied Adrian, coat, shoes, watch, taking in each detail like clues. Then Leo slid off the wall, careful not to bump his mother, and walked across the room in his socks. His toy car stayed clutched in his hand. He stopped a few feet from the man in the coat, tilted his head back, and asked it, "Sir, why is my mom sleeping on the floor?" His voice was small but steady, as if he had practiced talking to adults who didn't really want to listen. Adrian blinked. Of all the things he'd expected, a request for money, directions, maybe a complaint, that wasn't it. He began, then forced himself to actually look at the blanket, at the way the woman's shoulder pressed into the hard tile. at the bruise-colored shadows under her eyes. He swallowed. "What do you think she is?" he asked quietly. Leo's fingers tightened around the toy car. "Because the lady at the desk said the chairs are for visitors," he said, "not for cleaning staff." He glanced back at his mom, then at the row of empty plastic seats. She said if Mom sits there again, she'll call security, Leo added. So Mom said it's okay. "We're used to the floor." He said it like a fact, like weather. Adrian's jaw tightened. "Who told you that?" he asked. Leo pointed with his chin toward the reception desk. Two women sat there, talking softly, the glow of their computer screens lighting their faces. "But security is nice," Leo added quickly. "They'll let me stay if I'm quiet. They just can't make the chairs not rules." He lifted his eyes again. "Rich people don't sleep on the floor," he said matter-of-factly. "But my mom works for them. So is that fair?" The question landed between them like a stone dropped in deep water. Adrian had heard numbers his whole life. Budgets, costs, percentages. He'd heard people talk about efficiency, productivity, non-clinical staff. No one had ever put it like that. "Is she on break?" Adrian asked. Leo nodded. "She finished her third night," he said. "She cleans all the rooms on this floor and the one with the babies. She said she'd just close her eyes for a little while. I'm supposed to wake her if someone needs her or if the floor gets too cold." He held up his toy car. "And I'm guarding," he added earnestly, "so nobody steps on her." Adrian looked down at him. "And where should you be sleeping?" he asked softly. Leo shrugged one shoulder. "At home," he said. "But the man came last week and banged on the door and said if Mom doesn't pay, we have to leave. Mom says night shifts pay more." His brow furrowed, trying to remember the phrase. "Hazard something. Hazard pay," Adrian murmured. "Yeah," Leo said. "Hazard. Like danger money. So sometimes I come here. She says hospitals are safer than our street." He said it calmly, like that was just how life worked. Adrian's throat burned. He had grown up over a noisy laundromat. He had watched his own parents fall asleep in metal chairs after cleaning offices all night. He had promised himself he would never, ever be that tired again. And somehow, in building a world where he didn't sleep on floors, he had forgotten the people who still did. "Leo," he said quietly, "do you know who I am?" The boy squinted at him. "You look expensive," he said honestly. "Are you a doctor?" "Not a doctor," Adrian answered. "I help run this place. I'm one of the people who decides where the chairs go." Leo considered that. "Then maybe," he said carefully, "you could decide that my mom belongs in one of them." "Music?" Adrian didn't answer. Not with words. Instead, he set down his coffee and walked with Leo back to where Mara slept. He crouched beside her, careful not to startle. "Ms. Rivera?" He read off her badge. She didn't stir. "Mom," Leo whispered, touching her arm. "Wake up. The chairman is here." Her eyes flew open. For a moment, she looked around in panic, as if expecting to be scolded. Then she saw Leo, then the man kneeling next to her. She pushed herself upright too fast, wincing as her back protested. "I'm sorry," she said immediately, voice hoarse. "I must have. I was just on my break. I didn't mean to, Leo. You should have woken me." "It's okay, Mom," Leo said quickly. "He said he runs the chairs." Mara blinked. "I what?" Adrian removed one glove, held out his hand. "Adrian Cole," he said. "I'm with the board." Her eyes flicked to his hand, then to his face, then to her own worn shoes. She hesitated before shaking once, quickly, as if afraid to smudge him. "Right," she said quietly. "I've seen your name on the donation plaque." He glanced at the floor. "You've been working nights?" he asked. "Somebody has to," she said with a tired half smile. "We're short-staffed. It's fine. I'm Fina." She wasn't. Her hands shook as she pulled the blanket away, trying to stand. "My break is over in 5, she added. "I should get back." Adrian shook his head. "Not yet," he said. "You're coming with me first." Mara stiffened. "If this is about the chairs." "It is," he interrupted softly. "And it's about the floor, and about the fact that we don't have anywhere for people like you to rest." He looked at Leo, "And about the fact that your son thinks that's just the way the world works." He stood, offering a hand to help her up. She stared at it for a second, then took it. Her legs wobbled. Leo got to his feet too, gripping her hoodie. "Where are we going?" he asked. "To fix something," Adrian said. "For real, or just on paper?" Mara asked tiredly. "For real," he answered. "And then on paper." The unused room at the end of the hallway still smelled like dust and old equipment. Earlier that night, Adrian had walked past it and filed it away in his mind as waste of space. Now, with Mara and Leo behind him, he saw it differently. "Lucas," he said into his phone as he pushed the door open. "I need this room cleared tonight." The head of operations groaned on the other end. Now he protested. "Adrian, it's the middle of the—" "Now," Adrian repeated quietly, looking at Mara's face. "Bring a cot, 2 reclining chairs, and some real blankets. Take it for whatever storage you need. I'll sign off on it in the morning." There was a pause. "Is this about what I think it's about?" Lucas asked. "Yes." Another pause. "I'll be there in 10. Adrian hung up. Mara stood just inside the doorway, arms wrapped around herself. "You don't have to do this," she said. "People sleep on benches all the time. I'm used to it." "That's the problem," Adrian replied. "You shouldn't have to be." Leo wandered into the empty room, his socks whispering over the floor. "There's no bed," he said, looking around. "There will be," Adrian answered. "And it won't be on the floor." Music. Within an hour, the room was transformed. Not into anything fancy, not into a spa, just into a place that said, quietly, "You're allowed to be human." A narrow hospital cot with clean sheets. 2 reclining chairs with footrests. A small lamp with warm light instead of harsh fluorescent. A cupboard where staff could lock their bags. A sign on the door, printed quickly and taped up. "Night staff restroom, cleaning and support." Mara stood at the threshold, eyes shining in the soft light. "This is for us?" she asked. "For you," Adrian said. "And for everyone who keeps this place standing when the rest of the city is sleeping." Leo walked over to the cot, bounced once on the mattress, then grinned. "It doesn't squeak like the floor," he announced. "Mom, look, it has an actual pillow." Mara laughed, a small, disbelieving sound. "I don't know what to say," she murmured. "You don't have to say anything," Adrian replied. "Just rest." She hesitated. Years of habit tugged at her. "If I fall asleep and someone needs a spill cleaned, I'll personally mop it," Adrian said. She looked at him sharply, then saw that he meant it. Slowly, like someone walking into warm water after months of cold, she sat on the edge of the bed, then lay back. The thin mattress might as well have been a cloud. Leo climbed up beside her, toy car still in his hand. He turned his head toward Adrian. "Sir," he said quietly, "does this mean my mom is a little bit rich now?" Adrian swallowed. It means, he answered, your mom is finally getting something she has already earned. The next morning, the boardroom felt colder than usual. Sunlight bounced off glass skyscrapers outside. Inside, a long polished table reflected the men and women seated around it, their laptops open, graphs glowing on their screens. We need to talk about costs, one of them said. Night shifts are eating into our budget. Support staff overtime is up 20%. We could freeze hiring, another offered. Reduce cleaning rounds after midnight. Patients don't notice if the floor is mopped at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m., someone else added. But the savings add up. Adrian listened. Then he set his pen down. Last night, he said quietly, one of our janitors slept on the floor of a waiting room next to her 7-year-old son because there was nowhere else to go. The chairs were for visitors only. Silence. A few people shifted uncomfortably. That's unfortunate, the finance director said. But we can't design policy based on isolated anecdotes. It's not an anecdote, Adrian replied, eyes steady. It's our culture. We put donors' names on wings and ask the people who clean those wings to curl up on tiles. Someone opened their mouth to argue. He didn't let them. From today, he said, every hospital in this network will have a night staff restroom on each clinical floor. With beds, with blankets, with dignity. Adrian, a board member, protested. We're talking about non-clinical staff. Their roles are important, of course, but, Adrian repeated softly, but their backs are optional. Their sleep is optional. Their humanity is optional. No one spoke. We like to say we're saving lives, he continued. But if the people mopping our floors collapse from exhaustion, who's saving theirs? He paused, voice low. Consider this my personal directive, he finished. If it affects margins, it comes out of my dividend, not their paychecks. The meeting moved on. Numbers rolled across the screens again, but the floor beneath the hospital had shifted just a little. And once it shifted, it refused to go back. Music. Weeks passed. The closet with a cot on Mara's floor became the test model. Other floors copied it. Some made theirs prettier. Some just made sure it had a lock that worked. At night, when patients finally slept and alarms quieted, cleaning staff and nurses took turns lying down for 20 exhausted minutes at a time. It wasn't perfect, but it was better than the floor. Mara used the room differently. Yes, she napped, but she also did something else. She studied. On her breaks, she sat cross-legged on the bed with a notebook open, a pen in hand. Medical terminology, basic anatomy, patient care. Free online classes played on her phone when the Wi-Fi cooperated. Leo lay at the foot of the bed, scribbling trains and hearts in a sketchbook, his socked feet resting on the warm radiator. Why are you learning all that? He asked one night, watching her draw diagrams of the heart. So I can move from mop bucket to stethoscope, she said with a crooked smile. So one day when someone calls nurse in the hallway, they might be talking to me. Leo's eyes widened. You're going to be nurse, Mom? He asked. Maybe, she said, if I don't fall asleep on my notes first. He laughed, then grew serious. Do you have to pay to learn? He asked. Yes, she said. Classes cost money. Money we don't really have. He frowned. Then why are you doing it? She looked at him over the top of her notebook. Because I want you to see me standing, she said softly. Not just cleaning where other people stand. He didn't fully understand, but he understood enough. He understood that his mother wasn't just tired. She was trying. One evening, After another long day of meetings, Adrian found himself back at the hospital instead of at home. He didn't plan it. His driver simply assumed and turned toward the familiar entrance, and Adrian didn't correct him. He walked the quieter corridors, hands in his coat pockets. He stopped when he saw through a small window a scene that didn't fit on any spreadsheet. Mara on the cot, head bent over a textbook, Leo snoring softly at the foot of the bed, toy car clutched against his chest, a lamp casting soft light over ink-stained pages. He watched them for a moment, unseen. Then he kept walking, a thought already forming. At the next meeting with Lucas, he dropped a folder on the table. "What's this?" Lucas asked. "A proposal," Adrian said. "Education scholarships for non-clinical staff. Tuition, books, adjusted shifts. Start with one pilot case." Lucas flipped through the pages. "Who did you have in mind?" he asked, though he already knew. "Mara Rivera Adrian Plaith. If she wants it, and if she turns it down?" Lucas asked. Adrian smiled faintly. "Then we'll offer it again when she's too tired to say no." Music. When Mara got the email weeks later, she thought it was spam. She almost deleted it, but the hospital logo at the top looked real enough, so she opened it fully. Her hands began to shake. "We are pleased to inform you that you have been selected as the first recipient of the Cole Foundation Advancement Scholarship. Tuition covered, schedule adjusted, child care stipend." Her first instinct was to look for the catch. Her second was to look for Leo. He burst into the restroom, lunch tray in hand, cheeks smudged with chocolate pudding. "Mom, security gave me extra fries." She held up the email. He read slowly, lips moving. His eyes grew huge. "So, you're really going to be nurse, Mom?" he whispered. She laughed and cried at the same time. "Looks like the chairman is serious," she said. Leo pumped his fist in the air. "I told you he's one of the good rich people," he announced. She thought of Adrian in his perfect coat, staring at her like he was the one learning something. "Maybe he's trying to be," she said, "and that counts for a lot." The night she got her first nursing student badge, Leo insisted on coming to the hospital just to watch her clip it on. He stood on tiptoe outside the staff locker room, peering through the gap in the door. "Let me see," he begged. Mara stepped out, cheeks flushed, new blue uniform a shade brighter than her old one. The badge on her chest read, "M. Rivera, student nurse." Leo's jaw dropped. "You look like the people in the TV shows," he breathed. "But better, because you're real." She laughed, smoothing the fabric. "I still clean," she reminded him. "But now I also help with medicine and checking people's blood pressure and saving lives," Leo finished. She didn't argue, not because she believed it already, but because maybe one day she could. Adrian saw her that night from the other end of the hallway. He watched her smile at a frightened patient, watched her guide an elderly man to the bathroom, murmuring reassurance, watched Leo lean against the wall, eyes shining with pride. The millionaire who once only saw hospitals as investments felt something shift again. He'd come to fix a chair. He was staying to fix the foundation. Music. Months passed. Exams. Shifts. Bills that were still too high. Mara didn't suddenly become rich. The apartment still leaked when it rained. Sometimes dinner was still noodles and whatever vegetables were on sale. But the landlord stopped threatening. Some anonymous donation had cleared their overdue balance. The anonymous donor's initials just happened to be the same as those on the hospital wing. She never asked. He never said. One evening, Leo found Adrian in the cafeteria, sitting alone with a black coffee and a sandwich he hadn't touched. "Hi," Leo said, plopping down across from him without asking. "I heard my mom didn't faint once this week." Adrian smiled. "That's a good statistic." Leo fiddled with his toy car. "Do you still run the chairs?" he asked suddenly. "I do my best," Adrian said. Leo nodded, then looked at him with a seriousness that belonged on a much older face. "Then maybe you can run something else," he said, "like the way people talk to my mom." Adrian frowned. "What do you mean?" Leo kept his eyes on the car. "Some people still call her the cleaner," he said, "even when she's wearing the blue uniform. They say, 'Hey, cleaning lady,' when they want something wiped. She pretends it doesn't bother her. But I see her mouth." "Her mouth?" Adrian asked gently. "It goes tight," Leo said, pressing his lips into a thin line to demonstrate. "Like she's eating glass." Adrian's hand curled around his coffee cup. "I'll talk to management," he said. "We'll have a discussion about respect." Leo shook his head. "You can't force people to be kind," he said. "Mom says that, but you can show them what it looks like." Adrian looked at him, surprised. "You're a very young philosopher, Leo." Leo shrugged. "I'm just tired of floors," he said, "and of people who think they belong above other people because they sit in offices." Adrian stared at the boy in front of him, the kid with a missing wheel toy car who had somehow turned into the conscience of a multi-million-dollar system. "Me too," he said quietly. The hospital's annual staff evening was never fancy. Paper decorations, cheap snacks, a microphone that squeaked. But this year, something felt different. On one wall, a large board displayed printed photos and short note for patients. Thank you messages scribbled in uneven handwriting. To the nurse who held my hand during chemo. To the cleaner who found my wedding ring in the trash bag and brought it back. To the security guard who sat with me until my son arrived. In the middle was a photo of Mara, taken by a colleague. She was adjusting a blanket around a patient's shoulders, head bent, expression focused and gentle. The caption underneath read, "She cleaned my room in my fear." Mara stood in front of it, cheeks pink. Leo pointed at the picture, practically vibrating. "That's you," he said proudly. "They put you on the wall. That means you're famous." "I'm not famous," she said, but her eyes shone. "You're famous to me," he insisted. The director took the microphone, cleared her throat, and started the usual speech. "Thank you for your hard work. Challenging year. We couldn't do it without you." People clapped politely. Then she glanced toward the back of the room, where Adrian stood with his hands in his pockets. "This year," she said, "we also want to recognize someone who became our very first Cole Foundation scholar and reminded all of us that people who clean the floors often carry the heaviest weight." She smiled. "Mara Rivera, would you come up here, please?" Mara froze. Leo shoved her forward. "Go," he whispered. "Nurse Mom." She walked up to the small stage, heart pounding. Under the lights, she could see faces: doctors, cleaners, nurses, security, clerks, all watching her. The director handed her a folder and stepped aside. Mara held the folder with both hands, knuckles white. "I'm not used to microphones," she said, voice shaking a little. "I'm used to mops." A ripple of soft laughter. "I used to think I was just the person who made sure no one slipped," she continued. "My job was to clean up what other people left behind." She glanced down at Leo, who beamed up at her. "But one night," she said, My son asked a man in a very expensive coat why his mother had to sleep on the floor. Her gaze flicked briefly to Adrian. He could have walked away, she said simply. He didn't. He moved a chair, then a bed, then a policy. She took a breath. I'm not telling you this to make him look good, she added. I'm telling you because it taught me something. Sometimes change doesn't start with the person holding the mop or the person holding the microphone. It starts with the person holding the question. She looked at Leo again. So, if a kid ever asks you, is this fair? She finished softly, maybe don't answer with a rule. Maybe answer with a chair. The room went very quiet. Then the applause came. Real, warm, from every side. Adrian didn't move at first. He just watched the boy who had broken his world open and the woman who had stepped into the space that followed. Leo slipped through the crowd and grabbed his hand. She did good, right? He whispered. Adrian nodded. She did more than good, he said. She told the truth. Music. Later that night, after the speeches, after the snacks, after the photos, they ended up in the same place they always seemed to, the waiting room. The chairs were the same. The floor was the same tile. But something was different. Mara sat in one of the plastic seats, leaning back, feet off the ground, her student nurse badge catching the light. Leo lay across two chairs, head resting in her lap, toy car parked beside him. Adrian sat in the chair opposite, coat undone, time missing, coffee finally finished. You know, Mara said quietly, the first night Leo asked you that question, I was half sure you'd be offended. I was, Adrian said. Just not at him. At yourself? She guessed. He smiled wryly. Maybe a little. She brushed a curl from Leo's forehead. You changed a lot since then, she said. So did you, he replied. She shook her head. I always wanted to help people, she said. I just thought I'd be doing it from the edges. Cleaning up, making space for everyone else. You still do that, he said gently. You just also carry a stethoscope now. She laughed softly. Leo stirred. Are we going home? He mumbled. Soon, Mara whispered, stroking his hair. Adrian looked at the two of them, at the woman who had scrubbed his hospital's floors and then studied in its closets, at the boy who had walked up to a millionaire and asked about fairness like it was the most normal thing in the world. Leo, he said, even though the boy's eyes were closed. Thank you for the question. Leo cracked one eye open. You're welcome, he murmured. You're doing okay with the answer. His eyes slid shut again. Mara smiled. Not bad for a rich guy, she teased quietly. Adrian leaned back in his chair, the hard plastic suddenly not feeling so undeserved. For a long time, he said, I thought money would keep me off the floor. And did it? She asked. He shook his head. It just gave me better shoes, he said. You and Leo, you reminded me what the ground feels like. The hospital hummed around them. Machines, whispers, footsteps, the same as always. And somehow completely different. Because somewhere down the hall, a door with a hand-printed sign stood open. Inside, a bed waited for the ones who used to be told to sleep on the floor. If this story warmed your heart, reminded you that real wealth is measured in kindness, not in chairs or plaques, don't forget to support more soul-stirring stories like this. Hit like if Leo's brave question touched something in you. Subscribe for more emotional tales about ordinary people doing quietly extraordinary things. And maybe share this with someone who needs to remember. Sometimes the smallest voices ask the biggest questions. And sometimes all it takes to change a life is to move one chair off the floor and invite someone to sit.